By cornfields beyond the lumbering locomotive, this story quietly played out behind barbed wire fences until now.
Something's really wrong with him.
How rare is this?
It's extremely rare.
He's so skinny. You can see his bones.
The prognosis has to be terminal.
If he gonna go, I want him to come home and go, not be in there.
For 23-year-old Devin Weathers, it's the final complication of Huntington's disease, death. Locked up for auto theft in Newcastle since early 2007, he was slated for freedom in June.
His release date was miscalculated.
So it's now September. But does he have until September? Devin Weathers' case now front and center. And there's the additional question of care.
The phone calls stopped, letters stopped, no contact.
It was always something for a whole year and a half every time he was at Newcastle.
Newcastle Correctional Facility is run by private firm Geo Incorporated. They would not comment specifically about this story. The family says for 2 years they hadn't a clue. Devin Weathers' letters abruptly halted in April 2007. He'd complained of trouble holding the phone around that time, and then silence. It's unknown when, but Weathers was diagnosed with Huntington's disease, an incurable genetic brain-wasting killer. Hallucinations, uncontrolled movement, part of a litany of symptoms. The mental and physical rigors lead more than 1 in 4 with Huntington's to attempt suicide. Videos on YouTube are a slideshow of vibrance withered away. One comes with a disclaimer, quote, "Warning, this video is very, very sad." 2 years of no contact. Mom finally saw her son.
They had so many guards in the room with us. Because at that time he was still trying to walk. And he wouldn't be still, and his body was jerking. And he kept hollering for food, for food. So my older sister got him, went to get some food for him. And he dropped it off on the floor, and he jumped down the floor and started eating it like a dog. The guard said he drops his tray every day, so some days he don't get no food if he drops his tray.
That was last fall. This month, we got wind of the story and requested to speak with the ailing young man. It was approved. We completed and signed consent forms for our in-prison interview. Then the next day, doctors interceded, saying Weathers is, quote, incapable of giving consent. Doug Garrison with the Department of Corrections. At first, we thought we were going to have the opportunity to speak to Mr. Weathers. Clearly too sick, you're telling us, to even speak to us.
Our medical examiner's judgment that this guy is not capable of making an informed decision to consent or not.
That's sick.
Well, that's sick.
We inquired about the case with Garrison on July 12th. A week after that, July 19th, the process for medical clemency was officially underway. The family thought that process started last year. You were told last year they would file this medical clemency? Mm-hmm. There's seemingly no opposition to a release. Weathers, at the time of his auto theft conviction, well, he was on probation for sexual misconduct with a minor. He was 17, she was 14. We spoke to the victim in that case and her family. They didn't want to be identified, but said, quote, if he's dying, he should be with his mom. Weathers is a story of Huntington's disease, a question of care in the big house, and a question of clemency.
I know he did wrong, but he's just served his time. If he gonna go, I want him to come home and go, not be in there.
There is here for now. Time for a mother and child reunion.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm very excited.
Deborah Weathers weathered years for this.
You just need to assist him a little bit.
Behind closed doors, the primer. Devin Weathers in prison for auto theft since '07. When his letters stopped, family claimed they were stonewalled from seeing him. Then they discovered he suffered the rigors of Huntington's disease, a brain-wasting killer passed on to him from his father. It always kills, and Mom worried about his care. In our first story, she recalled her first meeting after months and months.
He kept hollering for food, And he dropped it off on the floor, and he jumped down on the floor and started eating it like a dog. The guard said he drops his tray every day, so some days he don't get no food if he drops his tray.
She says guards told her if he drops his tray, he doesn't eat. The communication stopped because he couldn't write, talk. The contractor that runs Newcastle's told 24-Hour News 8 they can't comment on third-party allegations. It was potentially going to be a case for Governor Daniels' medical clemency, too sick to serve. He's only granted one such release in his tenure, a thief dying of cancer. He was released and soon after died. Weathers' case never made it to the governor's office. Although sick, Weathers' death wasn't deemed immediately imminent. And they also thought he could reoffend. Today, his release date.
Devin, Brad wants to meet you.
Hey, buddy.
No. That's Brad. He's from the news station.
Just excited. I'm happy that he's coming home to us.
And devastated. It proved too much for his brother. Weathers likely showed symptoms long ago. Some experts believe the disease itself may lead to criminality, victims no longer able to decipher right from wrong. Mom says he's better, though.
I believe since the story aired, he's picked up weight. He actually looks better in his eyes. It's not as hollow.
Out of prison, except for the one that confounds his mind.
It's coming back a different person is something, but you know, I see him. He's in there.
And there, a new tattoo on his arm. Savage. One Mom's never seen. Ink from the inside. Who knows? Like the burn on his leg from a radiator, they're told. Whatever happened stays inside. Brad Edwards, 24-Hour News 8.
With each face you drive by, there is a story. Chuck and Brenda at 38th in Michigan.
I came here from St. Louis, and I just was stuck here.
I've got like a college education. If you don't have the proper identification, nobody wants to hire you.
Tim, who sits downtown nearly every day at Meridian and 70.
I'm 51. I've been here all my life, and I just ran into a bad situation about 3 years ago, and I lost everything. About the first month, you'll go through shock, and you'll walk around because you don't know where to go, what to do. You just walk in circles.
And Misty, who panhandles at 86th and Keystone.
We lost our house last month.
You have kids?
Yeah.
But what about the story behind the story? Are the people who panhandle in central Indiana truly homeless? In a 6-month hidden camera investigation, ITMate tracked and followed some of the regular panhandlers of Indianapolis. Not just downtown, where some begin to peel back the layer of fellow panhandling phonies. We tracked the panhandlers you see outside downtown.
Where do you live? Do you live here?
Yeah.
Misty says she panhandles hoping to find shelter and feed her kids. Her sign reads, homeless, anything will help, God bless. We decided to find out how true her claims were. ITMate watched Misty and her crew drive from the south side of town and show up for their version of work, usually around 2:30 in the afternoon. They work both sides of the intersection. At one point, Misty simply hands her sign to be used by the next panhandler within her group, this time a man. We watched as she walked away from her panhandling post at 86 and Keystone to her car, parked hidden away at Keystone of the Crossing shopping mall. It turns out Misty has a lot she isn't telling, and what's written on her broken piece of cardboard is a lie. Homeless? Not really. She lives here on North Michener in Indianapolis. It's the address she gave to police just a few weeks ago. After weeks spending watching and tracking her panhandling, one day she didn't show up. Turns out she'd been involved in a heroin bust. Her car parked here at Frankie's, a known heroin dealer's house. A former employer and others in Greenfield say emphatically she is not in need.
Does she need to panhandle?
No, she doesn't, really. She had a very good job.
You don't think she has to?
No.
And she has a home, correct?
As far as I know, she does.
After watching her party on a Friday night at a hotel, IT mate confronted her.
Are you homeless?
Me and my husband, yeah, we are.
Well, what would you say if I told you that we had been following you?
Okay.
And what's the house on North Michener?
North Michener. That's where my husband's uncle lives. I don't want to be on TV, though.
We asked her about the drug bust.
You tell people that you're homeless. You have
I am homeless. I don't live there. When is the last time you ever saw me go on North Michener?
When you were busted in a heroin bust.
I was never.
The address that you all gave.
No, sweetie. That wasn't me. That was somebody else that used that address. That's my husband's uncle. I did not give that address.
You're not Misty?
That sign proclaiming she's homeless, she tossed it alongside the road. Michael Hurst is the program director for the city's homeless program. He's giving us the first look at a new survey of Indianapolis panhandlers.
0 of the individuals who are asking for money, who are walking up to you and asking you for money, were homeless. None of them were homeless.
Hurst says the picture is clear about homeless.
They're not going to spend their time standing on corners.
Hurst says their study found panhandlers with signs along the interstate approaching you are not homeless, and only 25 of the passive solicitors, those with cups sitting on downtown streets, are homeless. Unfortunately, the reality is there are 1,500 in Indianapolis, homeless, out of work, or trying to get to family. But stories like Misty often harden others from ever giving at all, especially when you see what IT Mate uncovered in the hole, the hiding place no cameras have ever been.
If you look closely, you can see that there's a well-worn path into their hiding spot from here at the intersection. So we wanted to take our cameras inside to find out what was here. Literally, when you first walk in, even just within the first few steps, you find one of the panhandler signs just discarded. Homeless, anything will help, God bless. This one says, I'm blind, waiting on Social Security, anything helps, God bless. Someone has written liar on here, a Social Security card, and a license for somebody out of Ohio. So that makes you kind of wonder if they're also making some fake IDs and doing identity theft. So in all, as you come back here, it really opens up into the wooded area. We find almost a dozen signs used by panhandlers, stashed here or just tossed away when they're done. Because they are repeat coming back onto this corner, chances are they're going to keep using some of these same signs over and over. There are a lot of people who are making camp back here. I didn't expect all these signs to be back here, just stashed. This is clearly an area that has been used for a long time.
It may never be clear what Misty and others do with the cash you donate, but homeless advocates in Indianapolis point to their new study that none of those panhandlers are in the situation they claim.